Wrestling. Dave Brown right along ringside. By golly, we're about ready to go with more big action.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Georgia Championship Wrestling. I'm Gordon Soler, your host, and we have quite an hour in store for us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Championship Wrestling at ringside. This is Vince McMahon, along with wrestling's only living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Welcome to this week's edition of Mid-South Wrestling Television. I'm your host, Floyd. Here's another outstanding card.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Regional Rasslin Podcast, where we talk the territories. I am Ray Russell, and this week we're going to go back to Memphis 1985 yet again. Going to attempt to close out the month of June 1985, the halfway mark in the year, and it's just been a long process, guys, but I've been so thankful to have the co-host of all co-hosts with me along for this specific ride. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, the one and only Mr. Gene Jackson.
What's up? We're back to Memphis 1985, and man, well, like you said, we're only halfway through the year. Each time I'm like, well, it's got to get better from this, and I've been wrong the last couple episodes, so I'm interested to see what lies ahead, but I'm also looking forward to talking about this with you and seeing exactly how it struck you. If you feel the same way I do. I know you pretty well by this point, Ray. I got a feeling you're not going to be like, holy crap, this was the best episode ever.
I got a feeling. Boo, boo. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You know, we don't really discuss the shows too much. Maybe every once in a while, a specific spot or an angle, we might share a couple of comments or something through social media, but we don't really discuss any of this before we get into the programming. And this is just another doozy. And I think it was the last episode where I said, it can't get any worse, and I did it on purpose because I said I'd really like to see what worse is, and I don't know that it got any worse, so I'm not going to sell that right at the top of the program, but it certainly didn't get any better. I'll put it that way.
No, that's putting it mildly. Yeah, I mean we'll go through it, and everybody will hear exactly what we're talking about as we move along. But wow, just wow.
Well, last week, we're going to talk about the Memphis territory, which I profess to be, in my estimation, the worst episode of TV this year, and that covers a lot of ground. We're talking about the Blizzard episodes, the episodes where 6 wrestlers were there. There was just a lot of weird stuff going on the first couple months of 1985, and maybe if I go back and compare the two side by side, I'll have a different opinion, but in recent times, this by far, last week's episode, was my least favorite of the year thus far. And so we're going to do our little recap segment. We call it Last Week in the Memphis Territory. Feature match last week. It was on the ups. We were going to see Jerry the King Lawler take on Coco Ware. A lot of promise on paper, but wound up being a 12-minute stallfest, which I called disappointing.
Yeah, man, I'm like you. We've been having that happen on the USWA show where you hear them announce a match and you're like, oh man, this sounds good. So on that last episode, they said Jerry Lawler versus Coco Ware. And I'm like, hey, no matter what other crap goes on in this episode, that's just going to be a home run. Wrong. We got to see a freaking Tupelo spot show match on a Friday night on live Saturday morning television. It was just mind boggling.
Lots of rest holds, even more stalling, and I think we got one actual wrestling move in the entire thing. Very much a disappointment, that's for sure, but we had a lot of other things going on. I didn't say any of them were good, but a lot of other things going on last week. We will talk about that now. The Sheepherders, Jonathan Boyd and his nephew, Rip Morgan, continue to dominate, so at least we have a new heel team to see what they're going to do, and the Sheepherders are back in some variation.
Yeah, when you hear Sheepherders, you automatically picture Luke and Butch. And then you're like, all right, Jonathan Boyd. And then it's like, oh, very early Rip Morgan.
Right.
Well, okay, they're not Sexton and Travis, so we'll see what we got here.
Yeah, they got the look anyway. Rip Morgan's a big boy. Now, how green he is, we'll have to wait and see what happens here. He does wrestle this week, and I use that term loosely. We'll talk about that when we get there. So, new team of the week last week was the duo of, we no longer have Tojo and Jerryoski, but rather Jay Youngblood and Jerryoski were teaming up. They look to perform the old Ricky Steamboat Youngblood finish last week in a squash match, but Jay and Oski soon realized that Youngblood, He's put on a few pounds since the early 1980s, leading to a not-so-tasty spot.
Yeah, if Botchamania could have somehow been a thing in 1985, although I don't know how that would have worked. I guess somebody would have had to send out videotapes to people or something.
Trading Botchamania.
Exactly. That would have been the hot spot of the week for sure. I mean, we've seen botches where Lance and Dave have had to recognize it, and you pointed this out. Like, this is the first botch where the wrestlers themselves had to reference it later in a promo because it was just beyond ignoring. It was the elephant in the room that they just had to try to acknowledge and hope they could move past.
And for anybody who doesn't recall the last episode or didn't go back and listen to it yet, basically the Steamboat Youngblood spot was Steamboat would press running Youngblood into the air and drop him down on the opponent in kind of like an elevated splash maneuver. The Rockers would utilize that a lot later on as well. Yeah. Well, it's Oski playing Steamboat in that specific situation, and Youngblood just about 20 pounds or more heavier and more lethargic, to quote the Gorilla. And he really didn't get up there at all and kind of fell over on the mat, and they tried to cover it up. But like you said, it was so awful they had to acknowledge it later in a promo. It was just that bad. Nobody was going to forget. And I still don't, and after this week, it still feels like they haven't forgotten what they saw last week. Is we talk about a lot of the talent here right now. We lost a lot of heels recently. The Macho Man, Kareem Muhammad, Dr. D, David Schultz, Bruiser Brody was in every Monday night. But we welcomed some new baby faces last week, including Les Freeman and Gino Della Sera.
Holy shit. I mean, you talk about not an even trade. My God. Yeah, they didn't help the situation at all.
No, it's like that Bill Watts, Jerry Jarrett trade where Jerry Jarrett got like fucking Hacksaw Higgins and whatever the case. And Bill Watts got like the rock and rolls in the midnights and everything along those lines. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I don't even know. It's clear we see Tom Renesto as a booker grasping for straws right now to get people to come into Memphis. It's guys that should be retired. We've seen Cyclops and the Mexican Angel and guys like that who are well up there in age and can no longer perform to any real level. And then we get guys like this who, and no disrespect to Gino Della Sera, by this point he'd worked quite a bit up in Quebec and he had worked in Puerto Rico, but he, just to come waltz into Memphis Wrestling from Puerto Rico and French Canadian speaking territory, and Les Freeman, who I had no idea who he was.
Yeah, and to walk in as baby faces, if you had a decent heel manager to put with them and try to put some heat on it, maybe you could have got something done. Of course, obviously you couldn't right now because you don't have a decent heel manager to get heat for themselves, much less anyone else. But yeah, bringing them in as baby faces when you've got Oski and Jay Youngblood clusterfucking their way through stuff out here. Like I said, I'm guessing in between like commercial breaks or wherever he could, Lance is smoking an extra cigarette or two right now to get through this.
Well, we talk about all the great ongoing storylines right now. Son of Renesto, that is Tom Renesto Jr., a.k.a. Tom Branch here in Memphis, currently a referee continuing his heel turn, beginning to work some six-mans, and maybe not in the Mid-South Coliseum yet, but we've seen him in some other cities teaming with the PYT. So already going into that, I don't want to say a wrestler role, but he's getting involved in the matches. And of course, Tom Branch, Tom Renesto Jr., a former wrestler. He worked in LA. He's worked in the Mid-South. He's made his rounds. His father's a legendary heel, with the Assassins, with the Bolos and things of that nature. So Renesto Jr., Tom Branch, has an idea of how to get heat, has an idea of how to work. But at the same time, I mean, this is their big angle right now is Renesto pushing his son.
You've covered it on the Grenade. We've covered different things on the Coliseum video cast, of course, of the great Danny Davis heel referee turn, where it's done very well. At least the turn, the initial part of him becoming a wrestler. 2 years prior, this ain't it. This is not off to a good start. It's you can already tell that the wheels are coming off this before they even get rolling. But, it's the Booker's son, so we're going to just grit our teeth and just push through it and hope somewhere along the way it starts working. Because, when you read those spot show results, it's already happening all over the territory.
And I have to wonder how much of it is truly just nepotism. How much of it is Tom Renesto Sr. saying, I just want to give my son a push, and how much is it, we don't have anything, and this is the best I can come up with, and I can trust that my son will at least be here next week. Because we've seen a lot of other guys, bail off the ship, and they always say a lot of the bookers would put themselves over, some of them for ego, but some of them did it because they knew, I'm drawing money, and I know I'm going to be here next week. And I don't know how much of it's that too, but I'm sure there's some nepotism involved. As we saw matchmaker Tom Renesto, he's been involved on TV as of late, and he announced last week on behalf of the AWA Championship Committee he had to strip the PYT of the Southern Tag Team titles, pending a tournament last Monday night, which the PYT were also involved in, which made absolutely no sense. We're going to strip you of the belts, but you can compete to win them right back.
Yeah, and if history had repeated itself, like with the interns, we could have just seen them turn right around and win them back in said tournament. And, to answer your other question, I think it's maybe a mixture of the two. Maybe you could almost call it justified nepotism, because if somebody questions it, then he can point out at the dressing room and go, who else is there? Yeah. You tell me who else I've got to work with, and I'll do it. But for right now, Junior here is as good as it gets. So that
is a shitty situation. When Randy Savage leaves your territory, next man up is Tom Branch, referee. Unbelievable.
Yeah. That's hard times.
It is hard times for BB. But right now, one of the other teams involved in that tag team title tournament last Monday night were a strange bedfellows team of Jerry Lawler and arch nemesis Nick Bockwinkel. And you got to love Nick's reasoning, the promo last week that he sent in. He was doing it for the money, and he was doing it for the uniqueness of it all. I got nothing to do this Monday night. I'm curious to see if Lawler's going to turn on me. Can I trust him? I guess we'll find out. It's a unique situation, so I'm going to go do it. You have to admire that Bockwinkel has done that much in his career that he's at the point where he's like, like you hear tell of very famous actors that do these shit movies just because, I like the role, so it's kind of interesting.
Only Nick Bockwinkel could get away with saying in a promo, I'm doing it for the money and the uniqueness of it all. I can't name another wrestler that could pull that off. But I think, probably honestly, they probably called him up like, hey, man, we'd like to book you for this tournament. All right, well, what kind of heel you got me tagging with? Well, he's been being a referee, but we was thinking we might could team you up with with the booker's son here. And he's like, nope, not doing that. They're like, well, what if we teamed you with Lawler? And he's like, well, that's unique. Yeah, I'll figure out a way to work that into a promo. And I just picture him rubbing his chin. All right, click record. I've got it. Let's go. And
let's roll. So Nick Bockwinkel comes in for the tournament. Sadly, Lawler and Bach, which would be my favorites to win the whole thing, do not win. In fact, they lose in the tournament to the team of Travis and Sexton. We have to believe referee Tom Branch played a part in that. I have to believe that. We're going to hopefully find out. I'm going to keep going through the footage. I hope I have an answer to that in the next week or two on the program. But we do know that instead it was the Fabulous Ones going to the finals and defeating Travis and Sexton to win the tag team titles. Can you believe Billy Travis and Ron Sexton, your Lord and Master, by the way, Gene Jackson, Ron Sexton, is they make it to the finals, defeat Lawler and Bockwinkel in some weird random way. But the Fabulous Ones are once again the tag team champions. And we talked about this, I think, off air before. They stripped the Fabulous Ones of the belts to give it back to the PYT, to strip the belts from the PYT to give it back to the Fabs.
Welcome to Renesto logic here. I mean, take the whole heel referee aspect out of this. How do you know your territory is on its ass when Billy Travis and Ron Sexton are going over Lawler and Bockwinkel and make it to the finals to wrestle the Fabs for the tag team titles? I mean, nothing against those guys, but in 85, I don't know that Ron Sexton ever really got there per se, but Billy Travis was not anywhere in that realm in 1985. I mean, it just blows my mind to think that that's who put Lawler and Bockwinkel out of the tournament. I'm surprised they didn't just have Lawler and Bockwinkel win it and then turn around like, well, Bockwinkel's got bookings in the AWA. We got to strip them of the titles and have another tournament.
That's it. That sounds Memphis-y to me. Well, as we get ready for another week of television, the most important thing that we learned last week was a commercial break. We also learned that today, June 22nd, 1985, is Memphis Zoo Day. So fans, watch the program, then come on down, bring the kids, pet the tigers, feed the lions, have a great time there at Memphis Zoo Day, going on after this TV program right now, Gene. But right now we're going to go back in time, June 22nd, 1985, WMC Channel 5 Studios for some more Memphis wrestling action. All right, it is more CWA Championship Wrestling. It's Lance and Dave right along ringside. And Gene is with me, but with Lance is the Sheep Herders. Jonathan Boyd interrupting Lancer here to open the show, letting us know that the Bloody Sheeps were bloody robbed in the Bloody Tournament. They battled the Bloody Fabs to a bloody time limit draw. And the Bloody referee said we're going to decide the bloody winner on a bloody coin flip. Do you call that Yankee bloody justice, Gene?
I'm sure Lance was like, if you say bloody one more bloody fucking time, I'm going to bludgeon you until you're bloody. Come on. I mean, I realize those guys always worked bloody in there, but like, that's a bit much.
Yeah, anybody who just listened to me, I paraphrased, but he literally used the word bloody likely that many times in this promo here. So basically, though, when you go back and listen to the story that Boyd is telling here, I guess the semifinals, it was the Fabulous Ones and the Sheep Herders going to a time limit draw, and then they decided who would advance to the finals on a coin flip, which was won by Stan and Steve. So Lance then shocks the world here on commentary when he announces the winners of said tournament, the Fabulous Ones, both of them, Gene, will actually be right here today in the studio and in the ring, in action. Both members, Stan and Steve, same place, same time.
How in the world do you think did they have to break their own rule and actually pay those guys to show up this week?
Same time.
Did they have to get a busload of rats to service something? I don't know how in the world they pulled this off, but yes. The Bloody Fabs are going to be here in the Bloody Studio with their bloody titles.
That's right. We've seen a lot of VTRs of the Fabs. We've seen Stan in the studio. We've seen Steve in the studio. But the last time we saw both of them in the studio and in action, I can't even begin to tell you when that was. But storyline-wise, the Sheep Herders here, I think they have a legit gripe and a reason for a title shot. I think the story makes sense. They're building clearly to a rematch of sorts. Even Lance Russell has to admit here to Dave Brown that while he's not a fan of Jonathan Boyd, he understands why he could be upset. I wrote, holy shit, a storyline that makes sense, at least for now.
Yeah, it's funny. Lance is like, yeah, this guy's a prick, but he did get the short end of the stick here, so I got to agree with him. So, yeah, as you listen to that story and wade through all the bloodies, what an odd way to handle it, but it does set up another match. So here we are.
Here we are, a new episode and some new talent headed in. I thought we had escaped it, but they continue with the This Week in Rasslin music video to show us some of the talent going to be appearing here this week. And again, they spoil something for us. We see clips of Tojo and Jerry Jarrett in action, the Fabs, Travis and Sexton, Hickerson. Phil Hickerson and the Spoiler are going to be here. All right. Jerry Oski, Jay Youngblood, the Sheep Herders, although they show Luke Williams and Boyd in the video clip, but I'm not going to hold that against them. And someone by the name of Bota, the witch doctor, will be here I don't even know what it is, but they're already letting the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, here he is. I've been waiting ever since we started 85. I'm like, somewhere along the way, Bota the Witch Doctor shows up, and I'm not going to go back and cheat and see when. I've just been kind of waiting on it patiently, and here he comes. So get ready for Bota the Witch Doctor.
Stay tuned. He will be here today, folks. Maybe not in the studio, but we're going to get our first look at Bota here in just a little bit. But first we go to the ring. Tag team action. Going to see Jerry Jarrett out here teaming with Tojo Yamamoto, taking on Terry Adonis and Bill Smithson. And Smithson and Adonis here looking like a Temu version of a leather-clad Adrian Adonis and Killer Tim Brooks wearing the leather jackets and leather hats here. What an odd, I don't know. What would you call what they look like here, Gene? How would you describe it?
It looks like they should have come out to that theme song, It's Raining Men or something. It wasn't tough. If they were going for tough, they fell short of the mark. And of course, Smithson, a little different than what I had been accustomed to seeing him as in the 93 USWA.
Right.
I heard that name and then I looked at him and I'm like, holy crap, and realized who he was. But he wasn't there yet back in 85.
No, and I believe he had teamed with Adonis a little bit here off and on in the outlaw territories around this area and things of that nature. But Smithson, as you point out, the future Moondog Spike. So he's going to be a Moondog later on in his career. Adonis also had worked up at this point under the name Terry Fargo, and that was not going to happen here. He also wrestled under, I don't know if it's a real name or not, but he was Mark Roberts early on in the late 70s for Goulis, and later on even working for the Paphos ICW. At this point, he is Terry Adonis, as we get some basics in the ring between Jerry Jarrett and the opponents in front of a very subdued crowd. We're going to have another one of these crowds. I think Renesto has killed the crowd. We referenced them not making noise last episode, and it seems to be even quieter this week. So while they're showing up for their free tickets, they're not really into anything very much, but we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. The heels going to make the ropes several times as Jerry Jarrett keeps putting him into, I guess you could say, rest holds, frustrating Jarrett. So he tags out to Tojo Yamamoto, as Lance says, Tojo will make chop suey out of you, which is Chinese, Lance, but that's okay. Tojo in with chops, Jerry Jarrett back in with the very basics on the offense. Smithson with a cheap shot on Jarrett, and the heels finally going to take over on Jerry, double team work. Jarrett, though, able to tag back to Tojo, who goes chop crazy on both of the heels. And by chop crazy, I think he chopped them both twice. Jerry Jarrett back in for the slowest Fez press in the history of time. Time standing still as Jerry tries to mount Smithson to take him down in a Fez press. But it's Terry Adonis rushing in to toss the referee, stomp Jerry Jarrett, and draw the disqualification. Match goes 5 minutes and 2 seconds. My response, okay, question mark.
Yeah, as much as we all love Jerry Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto and as big a draw as they had been in their day, I said that earlier about, the territory's on its ass when you've got Ron Sexton and Billy Travis going to the finals. But you also know that you're in trouble when you've dusted off Jerry Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto in 1985, because we already knew from the last time we saw Tojo that he was barely mobile. When he's in a match with Playboy Frazier and Frazier's the one that's more mobile than he is, it's about time to wrap it up on the in-ring stuff. And Jerry Jarrett was way past his prime, but I think it was just a matter of like, we need bodies. Let's get in there, Tojo, and do it again. But why in the world would you have the job team get DQ'd? I mean, you're not fixing to do anything with them, are you? Or are you? Are we that desperate now? They're like, all right, man, let's see if we can get these gay bikers in some kind of angle here or something. I don't know.
Well, that was the only thing I could come up with was let's put them in the ring. Let's see what we think of their performance, and maybe we can use them again. So let's not bury them yet. That's the only thing I could come up. Even post-match, the heel's going to attack, but the babyface is able to clear the ring. So Jarrett and Tojo stand tall, albeit by disqualification. And that Thez press was just, it was not good.
No. I'm not a big fan of the Thez press, but boy, that certainly didn't do anything to change my mind. It was no Lou Thez, and it was not even a Tommy Rich or Steve Austin for that matter.
I have to. Jerry Jarrett can't be out of his 30s at this point, is he?
No, he's not. He's He's not nearly as old as he's wrestling and moving. I guess it's just that, he'd been out of the ring for a few years and just that muscle memory had gone away or something. I don't know, because you would have thought he was older than Tojo in this particular instance anyway.
And another thing, too, his selling, his fire, nothing resonates. It's just not there. He's just walking through the motions of what a wrestler should do physically. And even then, not very good at it. So it's really weird to see Jerry Jarrett in the ring at this point in 85. But up next, well, we need some fresh faces. And it's going to begin here this week with the debut of one Leslie Floyd Cretchman III, making his arrival here to the Memphis territory, straight from the Montreal scene. And with a clear French-Canadian accent, he says, "I'm from Moscow," meaning Russia. Says he went to college in Germany, and he is an attorney. Remember that, folks. Even though Lance Russell referred to him as a sports agent when he introduced him, apparently Leslie thinks he's an attorney. He says that any man he manages is going to boogie, bump, and hustle. They're going to get down. They're made of sugar, spice, and everything nice, and they will come for the tag team titles. And even doesn't really reference a tag team here, but what a line, what a promo. Mr. Leslie Floyd Cretchman III. Gene, I want to hear your take on him. Boy, do I. And I want to hear, I would love for you to share your story of how long it took you to get through this episode of TV, courtesy, well, lots of reasons, but one of them being Mr. Cretchman.
Yeah, so full disclosure, usually I sit down and watch. Sometimes I'll watch them twice. Sometimes I'll just watch it on my phone or something and then watch it again where I can make some notes. But usually, especially here when times have gotten a little tough on these shows, I've just been one and done. Well, I kept trying to watch this show, and admittedly most of the time I was watching it late in the evening, and I kept falling asleep. And it was usually right in this general time frame of when this guy comes on the screen. I mean, literally like 3 different times I fell asleep and had to keep coming back trying to get this show watched before I finally got it watched. But I mean, this guy comes on and he's, like you said, he's clearly French Canadian. His name reeks of that area of, where he pulled that name from the previous Cretchman.
Sure. Right. But
he's from, because when he said Moscow, I'm like, there's a Moscow in Canada? But it's like, he's from Moscow, but he went to school in Germany. He's an attorney, but he's also a sports agent. There is so much going on with this guy, and it's all just terrible. Like, I am just begging, bring back Tux Newman for the love of God. Okay. We didn't know what we had, apparently. I mean, this, you take all the Nate the Rats and, Kenny G or whatever that one clown was that was Lawler's friend or whoever that, guy would show up from time to time. And, there's been 3 or 4 like managers in Memphis who were just friends of friends or people they knew that would just turn up and manage Boss Winners, that managed Rough and Ready, the jobber team and stuff.
Sure, like Mickey
this
Poole.
Is by far Mickey Poole.
Yeah.
Yes. The list goes on, and Big Business Brown and all these randos. But this guy is far and away, and if anybody would like to schedule a debate, bring it on. This is one hill I'm willing to die on. This guy is hands down the worst fucking manager in the history of Memphis wrestling. And if you could make a case for somebody else, I'm telling you, bring it. Ray can set up a debate over at WrestleCopia at some point, and I will gladly discuss that with you because I haven't seen anybody worse.
That covers a lot of ground. I mean, I have to think that if we cover every era of Memphis, eventually we have to find somebody worse than Mr. Cretchman. However, he's not good, and we're going to find out. He's trying to force a narrative. I don't know if he just had a vision of what his character was supposed to be, and he's just going with that narrative, or if he is purposely fighting the bookers, the promoters here in the company as far as what his gimmick's supposed to be. We're going to hear Lance Russell. We're going to hear Jerry Lawler. We're going to hear pretty much everybody referred to him as a sports agent to the point where they bury him, that he keeps saying that he's an attorney. He refuses to acknowledge that his character is an agent. And instead, he's going to continue to talk about being an attorney as we see here. But he's also going to mention a guy by the name of Bota, who apparently likes fire. What a great He likes fire. He likes to burn people. He walks on nails. And now he presents a video, does Mr. Cretchman, that shows what Bota the Witch Doctor is capable of, as he says, in the ring. And now we're off to one of the greatest vignettes of the mid-1980s Memphis. It is Bota the Witch Doctor. Only, as Cretchman promised, we're going to see what he's capable of in the ring. We don't go to a ring, Gene. We go nowhere near a ring. We go somewhere outdoors, likely Jerry Jarrett's backyard again, with this Bota character doing random combat poses with a spear as superimposed flames burn in front of the video. And we hear Cretchman begin to narrate the backstory. But before we get to any of that, let's talk about this video itself, what Bota's doing here.
Well, like you said, I'm sure it's the wild, wild jungles of Hendersonville, as we've seen with Kamala and others. But it's the most, like you said, the superimposed fire. It's so cheesy looking. The video itself, the way the video is put together before you even get to the character,
right?
And this strange backstory. And I want to add too, as far as the confusion on what his character is, he comes out there with a freaking book that he says, I have my law book,
right?
I will look up the laws in here for you. He comes out there and is trying to help somebody somewhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. But it's just like, it's kind of like what you said though. It's like they're kind of engulfed in a battle of what this character's going to be, and he's going out of his way to keep stacking up the lawyer talk, and then Lawler goes on and on about the sports agent talk. But
right.
I don't know that I saw this video all the way. I think somewhere in here is where I kept falling asleep. I don't know that I ever actually saw the whole thing in its entirety. So I just, he's walking on, he walks on burning coals. He's a pyromaniac, apparently. That's part of his deal.
Correct.
Because
most witch doctors love pyro.
Yeah, he's a master of combat and fire. I don't really know how you become a master of fire, if there's a degree. If you have to walk on the burning coals, and then he has a certificate somewhere. He walks through a wall of flames.
Yes.
He's something. Yeah, and he's 4 foot tall, but you don't really get to figure that out until he's in the ring and you can see him next to somebody who the height of.
I kind of got that from just watching this vignette. I don't know why. He just doesn't seem like a very tall in stature kind of character.
Yeah.
But, in the past, I've seen online, this goes back 25 years to the old message boards and things. People would reference, who was Bota? And some people would say it was fucking Tiger Conway Jr. or Tio, the Samoan. Clearly not any of those guys. We'll talk a little bit more about the background of Bota on other episodes, because I'm just trying to touch on him here. But the video that they show, the vignette, is literally just him doing these poses with the fire in front of him, and it's not even real fire. So, kudos to them wherever they found this type of editing software back in 1985 to do this. It's not very good, but at least they're trying. But the guy himself, he just doesn't look like a cannibal. He doesn't look animalistic. He doesn't look like he's from some random weird tribe in the middle of nowhere in a island far off in New Zealand. The character, it just looks like a dude who has some really shitty paint job, and instead of stars on his titties like Kamala, it's like fireballs. Really is. It's basically a Timu Kamala. As Cretchman here does the voiceover work, says that he found Bota, the witch doctor, in the Maori Islands, which do not exist, by the way. They are near New Zealand, where he was on a hunting safari, was Cretchman, where he viewed a ceremonial ritual. This is where it gets good, guys. 2 men were battling to the death. You got to watch this, mind you. And they were fighting to the death for the right to be the Witch Doctor Champion. You heard me right. Obviously, clearly, Bota was that winner. He is the Witch Doctor Champion. Apparently, he murdered someone before he came here to the States.
I wish he had a belt with a shrunken head attached to it or something to be the Witch Doctor Champion.
That would be awesome.
You gotta represent that. I also thought it was funny, or I don't know, maybe not funny, but odd. Like, why do we decide to let him be from New Zealand when we got 2 guys from New Zealand running around here who don't tie into this story at all?
He's from the Maori Islands off of New Zealand. You see, he's a savage.
But you at least should have. Then they should have been part of his little group here. Like, hey, I was going down there visiting my buddy Jonathan Bohr, and he's like,
go.
"Hey, you need to see these bloody witch doctors fight to the death over here for a championship." It
sounds like
wild.
something Boyd would throw a few bucks on. I could buy that. Yeah.
But no, we're going to ignore that completely.
And, his story isn't that he's just a witch doctor, which was just enough, I think, to get by on. He's also, as you said, the master of fire, and he walks through burning coals. He walks through walls of flames. I'm not even sure what that means. So my take was, Kamala, you believed. Even when I knew better, I still believed. But this, not so much. And the studio fans, completely silent through the entire thing, as Tom Renesto's booking has seemingly killed this sad Memphis crowd.
And as you're watching and listening to this, he's the master of fire, and he walks through fire, and he eats fire and shits fire, and fire, 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 fire. Well, this is all just a backdrop for Lawler to eventually throw fire at this motherfucker, right? Like, that's going to have to be the payoff at some point. And
if it's not, then I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Or I've never seen 85 all the way through. I honest to God, I have no clue exactly how this plays out. But I would want to say, I would have to think logic would dictate that this is going to be the guy who finally burns Lawler really good before Gilbert does it 3 years later.
Yeah.
And teaches Lawler a lesson about fire. And then this feels like some good Renesto logic. Lawler, the babyface, will be forced, Ray, to fight fire with fire.
Well, there you go.
In the most literal use of that term we'll ever see. Now, will any of this come to pass? I don't know. It seems like logic dictates it will have to, which means probably none of it will. Right. They'll probably have an entire feud where fire never becomes involved, just because I said that. I
haven't seen logic at least since Randy Savage left the territory at this point. It's only been about a month, which is scary, by the way. Think about that for a moment. But, out next, we got to see our first look at Bota the Witch Doctor. It's Jerry Lawler out next for an interview. Apparently, being Witch Doctor champion gets you a title shot automatically here in the Memphis territory, as we learn that Bota is coming straight for the king.
Well, Renesto contacted the AWA, was it the board of directors that he keeps talking to?
Sure.
Is that what he calls them?
Something
or the
like
board of governors, or whatever these AWA people are that keep screwing things up and stripping people of titles. Yeah, they informed Renesto, like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but the Witch Doctor champion's #1 contender to the Southern heavyweight title.
I wonder where he was ranked in the top 10 for the world championship in the after mags back in that time frame. But Witch Doctor champion Bota.
Go dig that up and see. He got my curiosity going.
Clearly, Jerry Lawler knows he's in this feud with Bota. He knows that Cretchman has just come in as the manager. So Lawler's backstage. I can only imagine the shit-eating grin on his face as he was standing there listening to the nonsense being spewed. So the king immediately ripping into Cretchman's promo and his character, stating there's no way that guy's from Moscow. Moscow, Tennessee is as close as he's ever come to being in Russia, just burying poor Cretchman here, writing on the wall for old Leslie Floyd right out of the gate, as Lawler then has a promo seemingly ready to cut on sports agents, how terrible they are for the business. The problem is Cretchman never mentioned that he was a sports agent. He said he was an attorney. Lance Russell even has to back Lawler. Yeah, you see, I was informed that he was a sports agent too, but he come out here saying he was a lawyer. So Lawler going to rip down the sports agents. I think everyone got the memo except Floyd, what his gimmick was supposed to be. He's just doing whatever he feels like.
Well, I'm sure whatever low budget, promotion he came from, you probably could just call everything on the fly and just, be whatever you want. We don't care. This is a funny thing about Memphis. So Lawler's part owner, so he has a vested interest in this shit working, but he also is, the guy who would book it 6 months out of the year in the past. So, you feel like he's probably backstage watching that promo, like you said, and he's like, oh my God, this is the shit. I'm fixing to go out there and bury this fucking guy. Now, normally, the part owner wouldn't want to bury somebody on the show because you're shooting yourself in the foot, but also the owner would pull someone aside and go, hey, what are you doing out there burying this guy that just debuted on the show? But he's part owner, so nobody really can say. So he's in a weird spot where if he chooses to bury something, there's nothing anybody can do about it. But then again, he's shooting himself in the foot. But also, as the fans sit there on their hands, all looking just completely confused, I'm sure he felt the need to like, well, I've got to go out and acknowledge this guy's a fucking clown, or we're going to lose whatever credibility we have left at this point.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly what it felt like here. It was Lawler. You don't want to bury your own promotion, especially when you're, like you said, you're getting the kickback from being, a promoter. You're getting all that pay. But he must look at, what's out there and go, well, this isn't going to draw anyway. So it doesn't really matter what I go out there and do. It's not going to hurt anything. So he basically mocks the entire shit story that Cretchman botched out there, which brings Leslie Floyd back. He returns with a law book, even though he's a sports agent, citing defamation of character by the king. At the moment, Leslie is Bota's legal advisor, we learn, not a sports agent, a legal advisor. Witch doctors need lawyers too, people. Lawler wants to trash talk about Cretchman's kind, being sports agents, but makes it clear he doesn't mean attorneys. He made that very clear. He goes, I want to tell you something about your kind, and I don't mean attorneys. I mean sports agents. I wrote, this is getting ridiculous, and Lawler clearly not wanting to bury attorneys because he may need one someday.
Ooh, good call by Lawler. He had a crystal ball somewhere.
Well, he knew it was just a matter of time.
Attorneys.
Well, before
one day, there's going to be an attorney's going to save your ass, sir. But yeah, this is just like I say. In the long term, you can show me some guys who were awful, but as far as somebody just completely shit in the bed in their debut, and then you go and there's no saving this. There's no you just got to get this guy in.
It's over
and get him back out because there's no way for him to get heat. He's too awful. If you don't believe anything this guy says, and you're telling two different stories at the same time, where's the heat? That's just that go away. Get this guy off my fucking TV.
Well, it's not even Lawler doing what he would do with Jimmy Hart, where he would bury them like a babyface would bury a heel. You come up with some good one-liners and some things of that nature, and the crowd, pops for it because they hate Jimmy too. This is mocking someone because it's so ridiculous and unbelievable. Like you said, the credibility is shot already. So if Lawler goes along with it, it ruins his credibility. So he's going to just do what anybody with common sense would do and say, this entire thing is absolute bullshit. But we're going to have to run with it for now. I have to wrestle this guy Monday night, so I guess I'll see you there. Is Cretchman going to talk back to the king here? Basic heel manager shtick stuff. Bota is going to take the king down. Lawler says, bring Bota on. And Cretchman, get ready to look up assault and battery. Lawler going to put his hands on the manager, perhaps, hopefully, Monday night. And if this Bota is the master of fire that he claims to be, he likes to get burned, Lawler just make Bota real happy come Monday night. So obviously foreshadowing potential for a fireball or two.
Yeah, absolutely. He went ahead and threw it out there, so to speak. But, another thing about this, and we'll get into this later when we talk about the Lawler show, but this crossing up the character and them being on two different pages, you could write that off as, well, something wasn't made clear before they went out on the live television. But knowing what we do about the Jerry Lawler show, we've already been down this road, and we're just continuing to go down it. But like I said, I'll let you tell that later. But that is what, knowing that, watching this made it all the more befuddling.
No, yeah, that's an excellent point. And when we get there, that's another reason we can bury this entire situation. And that could be what would make him the worst manager, is just the insistence to not follow what you were told to do. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Right now, we're going to run down the upcoming Mid-South Coliseum card, and it's going to change a little bit before the end of TV. So we're just going to run through it really quick. We learned that Jerry Lawler defending the Southern title against Bota, the Witch Doctor champion. Only Lawler's title on the line. This is not an ultimate challenge. The Fabulous Ones, the new tag team champions, scheduled to take on the former champs, the PYT. Sexton and Travis versus Oski and Youngblood. The Sheepherders versus Freeman and Della Sera. Hickerson and the Spoiler against Tojo and Jerry Jarrett. This must be 1973. Bill Smithson and Terry Adonis making their way to the Coliseum to battle Johnny Rich and Tommy Montana, man. 6 matches at the Coliseum. 5 of them tag team matches. That is coming 1 week off of a 10-team tag team tournament. Unbelievable booking here by Tom Renesto.
Yeah, like you said, man, Hickerson and Spoiler versus Tojo and Jarrett feels like it came straight out of a time machine. The Sheep Herders against Freeman and De La Sera sounds like a squash match from a Quebec promotion, you know, and Sexton and Travis versus Oski and Youngblood just feels like punishment for whatever audience is going to have to sit through it. And Fabs and PYTs, we've been there. We've done that.
Right.
Come on. I mean, yeah, they had some good matches, but we've already moved away from it once, and why are we going back? But I'm guessing if I'm the Fabs or the PYTs and I'm looking at the card, I'm like, yeah, I guess we'll just do it again. But then again, show's not over with, is it?
No, we've got, I mean, you think about last week in the Coliseum, they do something like at least 10 tag team matches. They bring another card back a week later, and it's a short card anyway, 6 matches on the card. If you had a headline match that was going to sell, then it really doesn't matter how many, prelim matches you have, but you only have 6 matches. You're debuting Bota and your only singles match on the show. And what are you going to do all the way up to the big main event? Tag team matches. You just saw 10 last week. You get 5 more this week. I don't understand the booking logic. I don't care what talent you have in the territory at this point. It just doesn't make any sense.
Relive the glory days of Memphis Wrestling with the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Each week, we go back in time to review USWA Championship Wrestling from the 1990s, episode by episode. Join us for watch-alongs, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive interviews with people who were there and lived it. Whether you grew up watching it or you're discovering it for the first time, this podcast is your ringside seat to Memphis wrestling history. It's all a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Listen now at USWApodcast.com.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/WrestlePod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
Speaking of the tag teams, we get the Southern Champs out here. The fabulous ones are indeed in the studio. As Stan Lane wonders why the Sheep Herders are here. If they hate the country so much, you heard them out here talking trash on America, making that American money, driving those American cars, and trying to pick up the American women. You don't like it? Get the hell out, says Stanley Lane. As far as issuing a challenge, the Sheep Herders issuing that challenge to the Fabs in a rematch, anytime, anywhere, any place, says Stan Lane, including right now. We also hear from Steve Keirn, who credits Jonathan Boyd for weeding out all the other contenders by simply issuing a challenge. Good job, Jonathan. Now the Fabs only need to defend the titles once every 30 days, but they say they will do it right here and right now. If we can sanction this thing, we might have ourselves a tag team title match right here on TV.
Wow, Stan Lane comes in hot out there. You like our American money, our American women? Well, you can suck our American balls right here, right now for the Southern Tag Team titles.
I've had every American woman known to man, and some of them twice.
Exactly.
So apparently we're going to have ourselves a tag team title match. Matchmaker Tom Renesto out here informing Lance Russell the match is indeed sanctioned. The titles will be on the line right here, right now. The tag team champions, the Fabs, defending against the Sheep Herders. Rematch from the semifinals, which went to a draw. The fabulous ones dominating Rip Morgan for a good 5 minutes of action here. as the Ripper looks completely lost in there. We've seen that before. And we get a couple of really shitty botches. I don't think Morgan even knew where to be for certain spots, and it was very awkward on live TV, folks. Steve Keirn, though, eventually gets knocked out to the floor, and while referee Jerry Calhoun is busy with Morgan and Stan Lane over in the corner, Jonathan Boyd sneaking over and driving the New Zealand flagpole, because those hurt worse than the American flagpoles, Gene. The New Zealand flagpole into Steve Keirn on the outside, who apparently blades as well.
Yeah, boy. Putting some heat on the old sheep herders here. I'm sure somebody was freaking out the monitor seeing some of those botches you were just talking about there from Rip Morgan, knowing what was coming. But yeah, I was actually excited to see this match come together because everything had been such a cluster up to now. I'm like, all right, well, sheep herders and fabulous ones. That's not something you normally see on TV. It's not, Sexton and Travis. And then once it gets going and you see Rip Morgan in action, you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe not. Because you already know what you got in Jonathan Boyd by 85.
Yeah.
He's on the end of his career. Nobody's told him yet, apparently.
That's it, yeah. But it's basically, I guess if they come together, they'd be at their peak. Boyd, if you just average it out, Rip Morgan's career versus Boyd's career at this point, they'd be somewhere right where you'd be riding high. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And Rip Morgan taking, I think he's in the ring for the first 7 minutes of the match. I don't believe Boyd tags in for 7 minutes. But Stan Lane coming over to Keirn, who is now busted open, even though the flagpole hit him in the gut. Steve Keirn is somehow gigged, and Stan Lane going to drag him back into the ring as the sheepherders finally taking control, and Jonathan Boyd tagging into the match 7 minutes in, left Rip Morgan out there to learn, I guess. The heels remain in control as we take a commercial break during a match in Memphis. That's new. I hope tape machines are rolling.
Yeah, hopefully so, because, boy, we don't want to miss any of this action right now. Great point about that gut shot with the flagpole that suddenly Keirn was bleeding from.
That felt very Captain Lewis of him.
It did. It definitely, definitely did. I don't know. I feel like in those first 7 minutes that anytime Rip looked over there, or even when the Fabs cut their eyes over, Jonathan's like, "You got him, mate. You got him. Stay in there. You got
stay on him, mate. Bloody, bloody, bloody." Well, he foreshadowed the gig job here from Keirn by referencing the word bloody 400 times at the top of the program, kind of giving everybody the Iggy. It was coming. As we come back from break, though, Morgan has the good old trap hold of doom on Keirn. And this crowd may be those painted-on cutouts once used by Angelo Poffo that Mr. Steve Crawford had referenced on a previous regional wrestling there in the ICW. Angelo Poffo so cheap, couldn't get fans, so he painted some cut. I'm sure Randy Savage, the poster maker, was the one that created those fans. And they may be here too, because there's little to no noise, no reaction at all in the middle of a tag team title match right here in the studio against two, for Memphis reasons, we'll call them quality teams. The Fab's a quality team anywhere you go. Rip Morgan, maybe not so much, but it's still for what it is right now. Sheepherders are easily one of the top tag teams here, and the crowd really doesn't seem to give a shit. Even so, Keirn's still bloody out there, poor guy, but it's just slow, plodding forearms from Rip Morgan. Finally, Boyd tags back in a second time, rakes at the open wound briefly before Keirn tossed back to the floor a second time. At this point, Stan Lane literally dragging a lifeless Keirn across the studio floor like his name is David Johnson. Bring him back to the Fab's corner, but he's unable to make the tag. The heels remain on top with a little chicanery. Steve Keirn finally, though, slugging his way back, making the tag to Stanley Lane, but the referee, he doesn't see the tag and ushers Stan back to the corner. Even still, Keirn counters a Rip Morgan spot and lands a hot shot across the top rope. Morgan took that well. I'll give him those kudos. And Rip Morgan down on the mat, but before Steve Keirn can capitalize, Jonathan Boyd in from behind with a sock full of coins. Yes, his weapon of choice, a sock full of coins. Clearly smacking Steve Keirn across the shoulder, but Keirn has had enough of this shit in the ring, so he just takes the bump anyway, and he is quote-unquote knocked out as Boyd tags in and makes the academic cover for the 1, 2, 3. We have ourselves a new tag team champions. The match goes 15 minutes and 31 seconds.
When I did finally stay awake and see this match in full, I will say that this match did something that a tag match hasn't done in a long time. It took me back to those days when I was just a full-on fan as a kid, because I was so invested in seeing Stan Lane get tagged into this match.
Yeah.
Whenever the ref didn't see the tag, I audibly yelled out, "God damn it," and was like at the edge of my couch, pounding my fist on the ottoman, pissed off because I so wanted something to happen. I like tag Stan in, let him come in and clean house, something. We've watched them shittily beat on Steve Keirn now for what felt like another 8 minutes, if not more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it actually worked. They actually got some heat from me for cutting off that tag and the ref not seeing it. So kudos for that, I guess. But we have new champs.
We do have new champs. Jonathan Boyd with a not a roll of quarters, not a brass knucks, but a sock full of coins. Whacks Steve Keirn, takes him down, steals the win. And we have new tag team champions. Not only do we have new champs, not only are they heels, not only did they cheat to win, they defeated the beloved Fabulous Ones. And the response from the crowd? No boos. No real response at all. That's where we are in the booking right now. The crowd just witnessed the Fabs robbed of the tag team title. The titles have changed hands, and the crowd doesn't give a flying shit. And that is no knock on Stan and Steve. That's just where we are right now. The crowd is not invested in anything.
No, I'm guessing that sock full of quarters was probably their payoff from the Belival house show that previous week. But, and we're fixing to get into this here in a moment. But the one big problem, when you start coming out here on TV and you take the belts arbitrarily, take the belts away from the Fabs, then you take them away from the PYTs, and you're just handing them back and forth to people and doing tournaments, they start to lose their luster. It don't really mean much because they could just be taken away at any time. Now, is what's about to happen supposed to address that somehow? I don't know if what's about to happen is going to make that better or worse. But with all the stripping of titles that's been happening at will, what's about to happen? I ain't going to say it's the stupidest thing Renesto's done yet, but damn it, it's up there.
So we'll get to there in just one moment. 2 weeks in a row, though, we saw Lawler and Coco last week, the Fabs and the Sheepherders this week. Quality matches on paper with next to no wrestling action involved. Lawler's match went 11 or 12 minutes. This one goes over 15 minutes, and we get nothing except for Steve Keirn blading. And I feel like Steve just went out there like, well, we're going to hit you with this. We're going to hit you with, how about I just blade really early in the fucking match and we'll just lay around. And that's kind of what we got. Even worse, though, storyline-wise, wasn't the reason that they stripped the PYTs of the belts to create the tournament was because of all their cheating to win. And then we turn around and the Sheepherders cheat to win the titles. None of this makes any sense.
No, that's the whole reason we had a tournament is because the PYTs got caught cheating, so we stripped them of the titles. Now the Sheepherders have come out here and cheated. And see, like, for me, Lawler and Coco was disappointing because Lawler and Coco are both good workers and had it in them to have a good match. I mean, the Sheepherders are good in name only because the name Sheepherders represents guys who can work. But in this iteration, Boyd's past his prime and Rip Morgan's too green. So this was what we were going to get. If we booked them in 12 minutes of a match on TV, this is what you're getting, folks. So here's your new champs. But they win. They cheat to win the belts, and now here comes Renesto and Eddie Marlin. I'll let you pick it up from there, and then I've got comments to make on the other side of it. But I'll let you establish what you think's going on here. At least I don't know. It was very off-putting and confusing.
Yes, I didn't like the way this plays out either. Like you pointed out, the Sheepherders are the new tag team champions. Before they can leave the studio, Jonathan Boyd going to stop by and gloat to Lance Russell, and out comes, as you said, Eddie Marlin and Tom Renesto, where Renesto says, "We saw the cheating in the back, and this title change will not stand." Renesto snagging the belt back from Jonathan Boyd. Now, Jonathan says, "Hey, the ref has the final say, bloody, bloody mate." Enter Floyd Cretchman, attorney at law or sports agent or whatever you may refer to him as. He reiterates that the referee does indeed make the final decision, and he has the evidence in his briefcase. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Cretchman then making a pitch to represent the Sheepherders, leaving Boyd his business card. Boyd responds, if the Fabs can win a match on a bloody coin, so can the Sheepherders. Well, that was the best line of the night, really, here. Renesto then looks like an asshole. At least he's not biased, but he makes himself look really stupid as he agrees with Cretchman. You're technically right. I hate to do it, but Tom Renesto says, I'm going to allow the Sheepherders to stand as the new Southern Tag Team titles for now. So Renesto basically saying, well, I was going to cheat, come out here and take the belts from them, but I got called out, which makes no sense to me since they just stripped the PYT of the titles last week for cheating in random matches. And they saw this cheating, but the referee's decision is final, which that part I get. But why do we not have the authority to take the belts from them? I don't know, but I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Okay, before we even get to the whole stupidity of the belt situation, to me, this angle right here reveals, I think, the real problem with this Leslie Cretchman shit. I think there's a misunderstanding between Renesto and Lawler about what this character's supposed to be, because it's not like Cretchman just heard this shit going on and went out there and riffed this. So they wrote him into this segment on the premise that he's a fucking attorney, because he comes out with his fucking briefcase. And so to me, this whole finish was predicated on him coming out as the attorney and turning things around and them keeping the belt. So as far as Renesto is concerned, he must buy into this he's an attorney bit for this shit to have even happened, which means the sports agent shit must be from Lawler's end, who's not booking the show officially. So that just, to me, adds bigger confusion into that whole thing. But to me, it tells me that the power struggle isn't necessarily between Cretchman and Lawler. This may be Renesto and Lawler with this Cretchman clown just stuck in the middle. Now, having said all that, the actual title part, to me, this just makes it even, if I'm one of those fans sitting in the studio, I officially no longer give a shit about these tag team titles, because if I back it up to when the Fabs got stripped and then the PYTs got stripped, we've sit through these goddamn tournaments just to have the very first match on television, the Sheepherders cheat and win the belts from the guys who won the tournament that only happened because guys cheated and got stripped of the belts. And then the guy who stripped the belts comes out to do it again for the very same reason. This low-budget attorney shows up and goes, no, referee's decision's final. And he's like, fuck, you're right. Yeah, never mind. And then we go back to this mystery AWA committee. Well, we're going to have to appeal this decision with the AWA, and that could take weeks or months. So, okay, so now you're telling me that the Sheepherders are going to remain the champions. They'll probably, in weeks or months, there could be 17 more matches. The tag team titles could change 14, 15 times.
Right.
But if they land back on the Sheepherders, you may strip the titles off of them again 8 weeks from now because the AWA committee finally made a decision.
Right.
And it's just such convoluted horse shit. How do you care about? I mean, if you're a fan, how do you care about all that nonsense? The belts are just getting handed around. You can't even keep track of it all.
I think that's part of the reason why the fans don't make a single noise when they watch their heroes lose the belts. The belts are they're robbed of the belts. It's not even just a title change. It's blatant cheating there. The fans don't even react really to the whole thing. And then they go through the break after the argument there, and the belts are on the Sheepherders. Renesto and Marlin are still out there after the break, and they reiterate, we can't do anything about it right now. And like you said, they're going to go to the AWA committee, but that could take weeks for a decision. So they can't do anything about it right now as far as stripping the belts. But what they can do is change the card. This Monday night, it's the Fabulous Ones now challenging the Sheepherders for the tag team titles. That makes sense until it doesn't. We'll get to that in a little bit. Right now, we go back to the ring for more action, though. Billy Travis and Ron Sexton teaming up with Buddy Wayne in their corner, taking on Les Freeman and Gino Della Sera. Freeman billed from Florida. Gino billed from New York City. Has a French-Canadian accent, guy from New York City. I guess they just don't like people being from Quebec here. Della Sera from New York and Cretchman from Moscow. Meanwhile, Buddy Wayne Bearer out here nearly falling, trying to hop off the apron. That was very comical. This 1 foot drop, and he couldn't make it.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Oh, somebody call the Undertaker. Ron Sexton in the ring with a belly-to-belly suplex and a double underhook on Les Freeman. Billy Travis tagging in with a nice power slam, but pulling Les up at a 2 count. And they're trying at least here some offense from the heel tag team. For a bland team as they are, they somehow managed to put together the most exciting offense on this entire show. So let that sink in. Della Sera finally tagging in late in the match, but doesn't fare any better than his partner Freeman. It's fast tags, decent double teaming here from the heels who are just really, I just can't buy into them. Freeman, though, back in, takes a Travis backbreaker, setting up a Sexton superplex. And we saw, I don't remember if it was David Johnson or who it was, they didn't want to take or didn't know how to take the superplex a few weeks ago, and they forced TV time to run out while they were trying to take the superplex. But it does land here this week. Sexton superplex on Freeman does land, and the heels go over 3 minutes, 54 seconds. I don't know that there was anything wrong with this match, but it was just there.
For me, I don't know, I'm getting to be more of a stickler about this shit in my old age. Number one, Sexton looks like a sleazy Pat Rose to me. For some reason, that's where I got that vibe off of him.
I can see that.
But to the point you was making here about the fast tags and some of these cool moves they're doing, it's like, are we trying to get them over as the babyface team and Della Sera and them are the shitty heel teams? Like, they're doing all this cool stuff, but they're supposed to be heels. Like, where's the heat? What did they do in that match that was supposed to make me hate them and put any heat on them? Like, the superplex in 85 is pretty freaking cool, you know? Like,
well, he's like fucking Taz out there with all these damn. He threw at least 3 or 4 different variations of suplexes, and guys didn't even do that in that era.
Yeah, I mean, and back then, you know, you just had your assassins and guys like that are in there just choking and thumbing people in the throat and raking eyes and trying to get heat. And these guys are out there, they're young-ish guys doing cool moves. The only thing to me that even says they're heels is they came out of that side of the studio and they got Buddy Wayne with them. Otherwise, I would have never known they were supposed to be heels based off this match. But I mean,
doing moves that we don't even see in Memphis. At one point, Lance had to tell Dave Brown, that's called a belly-to-belly, Dave. So Lance has seen a thing or two in his life.
Oh, they call that the drip dry, Dave. Don't ask.
Oh, the drip dry. You don't want to know. Oh, I learned that from Judy Martin the hard way. And so we continue on with the story. You guys got to join the Patreon and the Coliseum videocast if you want to pick up on the joke underneath that one. But right now, we continue on with the show. We see Travis and Sexton go over. But up next, it's Stan Lane returning. An angry Stan Lane back out here. He believes Steve Keirn has suffered a concussion after that match earlier. Stan Lane, he appreciates the offer of a title shot on Monday night, but there's just no way that he's going to let Steve Keirn compete as early as Monday after the whipping he took here today on TV and that shot from the sock of coins. But Stan Lane, he says he went backstage and he made a call, probably collect, to one Jackie Fargo, who will be there Monday night. So it won't be a title match, but rather it's going to be a match of revenge. You saw it right here on TV. The Sheepherders can't win without cheating. But come Monday night, there will be hell to pay as 3 fans applaud. I noted 3 fans applaud. This promo is Stan Lane basically announcing that it's going to be Lane and Jackie Fargo returning out of retirement again, just like 3 weeks after the last time he returned out of retirement. Lane and Fargo against the Sheepherders.
I feel like Stan Lane comes to the curtain like, I think we got them. 3 people left. Man, the only thing that sucks about the way that all played out, you know, that it was a challenge match and then they, lose the belts on TV in a match that wasn't even scheduled, is there was no way to justify a Jackie Fargo couch promo because he, at best they would have had to did one of those phone interviews where Lance talks to him over the phone that usually goes awry at some point. But yeah, I always hate when Jackie comes in and we don't get a cool promo from his couch letting you know what he's coming to do.
Yeah, Jack, I missed that. Well, I don't know what color it initially was. It's like a waxy buildup on it, that couch that Jackie just loves to hang out on for years at a time, it feels like. I mean, I missed that this week. We needed that. It was last minute is what it was, Gene, that they came up with this idea. And so they weren't able to get the VTR in time, or Jackie wasn't home at the moment. Who knows what he was doing? But he will be there Monday night, and at least 3 fans in the studio might show up.
Well, it was pretty awesome in 93 whenever Jeff Jarrett became the Fabulous One.
Yeah.
He actually had to do a promo sitting on the couch next to Jackie, and we speculated why the camera never went low. It stayed right up on their necks. And I'm like, they're not wearing pants, right? Josh and Richard, we had some fun with that. But it was if you've never seen that promo, do yourself a favor, go find it and watch it. It's pretty fun.
Well, we didn't get one here, but, we do have that to remember, years later, 1993. Maybe we'll get another Jackie Fargo promo before too long. We get the revised card for the Mid-South Coliseum Monday night as they go to throw to something. Well, we're going to go. And Dave's like, no, we're not. We're not going there anymore. Oh, yeah, we had to make a change. I don't know what that was. I don't know what the fuck happened. I've never seen that happen before. But apparently it looks like TV5 made their own change as well. Because as we go to throw to something and Dave says, no, we're not, we also go to a new NBC News report on the hostages of Flight 847, the hijacking. We talked about it last week. Those poor people are still sitting on that fucking plane. This winds up being a 3-minute update before it's back to the live action with the next match. But what did you come up with any idea of what Lance might have been going to throw to there? And then Dave was like, no, we're not.
I don't know. But I was trying to pay attention as we come out of that, if they show another promo or another video or something that maybe he was going to pitch to. But we just go to matches and your normal in-studio type stuff. So I really don't know. But Dave was almost in a panic.
Yeah. We're not doing
that down. No, we're not doing that. Like he was fixing to pitch to a stripper or something, no, we're not. Damn it, Lance, don't do it.
We've got a new lady coming in by the name of Caramel. No, we're not doing that to you. No, Lancer. Okay. All right. I guess we're not doing that anymore. Well, shucks.
They've been stuck there for over a week, but I almost feel like those hostages on that plane probably were happier to be there than these people in the studio at TV5. You know what I mean? They seem... That crowd felt like a bunch of hostages that had been taken.
That might be the
gunpoint.
Maybe that was the hijacking. Well,
Wayne wrangled him up.
We come back out of the news report. We see action going on, joined in progress in the ring. And remember, it was a 3-minute news report, so we didn't miss a whole lot here. It's the PYT taking on Dennis Upton and Johnny Rich. Norvell Austin going to catch Upton with a big clothesline driver. Took him straight down to the mat with that clothesline. Upton then going to lose his sense of balance after that bump on his head, but he continues to take a beat down. Norvell following that up with a nice power slam, and this sure ain't going to help a concussion. Coco Ware tagging in with the Ghostbuster Death. Upton going to fold in half right on the noggin. CTE for Dennis Upton. Coco Ware with the Ghostbuster tagging back to Austin, who casually walks in, kneels on Upton to add the insult to injury. We only get about 1 minute and 10 minutes shown here of the match, but I guess we'll have to wait a little longer to see old Johnny Rich in the ring because Upton was the one taking the beating here when we come back from break.
Man, Dennis Upton, hometown, Tupelo, Mississippi. I never wrestled Dennis, but I worked on a lot of shows with Dennis. He was an announcer on a show I worked on in the 2000s. Nice guy, but he was strictly enhancement guy, but when he would tell those stories in the dressing room, you would have thought he was at the Coliseum every Monday night, right alongside Lawler, in the glory days as he would tell it. And I never bothered to dispute him or make him look foolish in front of anybody. But as I saw this match, I was like, oh man, I wish I still had Dennis's number so I could call him like, hey man, just how bad was that brain buster? Or do you even remember it at this point? So,
well, in this instance, he does the job, and rightfully so. He got manhandled in the 1 minute of action we saw. He was pretty banged up, pretty roughed up there by the PYT, who are now the former tag team champions, and they have to be up. So they don't get promo time. They don't have a manager, and now they lost their title shot this Monday night because of the sheep herders. So the PYT can't be happy right now, but we won't know anything about it because they don't get a promo. Instead, we go straight into our final match of the evening, or the afternoon. It's Jay Youngblood and Jerry Oski taking on Phil Hickerson and the spoiler, Jamie Ward's own Frank Morrell. Some basics from both sides to begin the matchup. Youngblood landing a drop kick, but the TV timing is all wonky this week. As we saw earlier, they took a break in one of the matches. We do it again here during this match. Another break during the bout. And then as we come back from break, Lance Russell having to apologize for the way the time has worked this week, blaming the impromptu tag title match, which booking-wise they knew all about. So we see the two teams trading shots in here as we get an expiration of time draw and like 15 seconds of action after we return from commercial before they go to the time limit. So I timed it with commercial. The match was about 4 minutes and 50 seconds. We get to watch about 2.5 minutes of wrestling. And instead of even seeing the post-match brawl that goes on, it's right back to another commercial break immediately after the bell sounds.
Man, I'm going to call that a win. I'm not, I ain't mad at that at all. So it's funny, in those USWA days, I remember a couple of odd weeks for the expiration of time match where you could tell they were just hustling to get them into the ring.
Yeah,
and they'd ring the bell, they'd lock up, side headlock, shoot them off over. All right, we're out of time,
right.
Dave. We'll see you next week. I was like, why did you even rush them out to the ring? I guess just to say you tried to have the match. But
yeah.
2:30 is about all I needed to see of this match in particular. So I'm all right with this.
Well, name value wise, I get it. Hickerson and Spoiler. I can't. Hickerson was always a fun character. The Spoiler was never. Yeah. They didn't really do a whole lot with Frank Morel, and in this era, I get it. But at the same time, Youngblood and Oski, Youngblood does the job. It seems like on every house show we read results for, and Oski hasn't really been faring much better, other than that 1 week run or 6-day run with the Southern title from the Macho Man. So I get why we don't need a whole lot of them. They're not exactly lighting the world on fire in the ring either. So I'm not complaining so much about the wrestling and not getting to see the action, but just the entire booking of it all. Bob Roop has said a few times on the podcast over the years with the Wrestling Stoop Show that booking was much more than just, putting together matches or writing angles and storylines and things of that nature. A lot of it went to the TV. The timing of the matches, the promos, the segments, the way the matches flow in and out, the way you put together a show on your TV program so that it makes sense and things of that nature. All of that makes sense. A lot of people just think about, well, a booker is nowadays are writers, if you will. Well, they're a lot more than that. Back then, especially, they controlled everything. And so I don't know what happened this week because they talk about the impromptu tag team match throwing everything off, but he booked the impromptu tag team match, so he knew where it was on the show. So to have two different matches go through a commercial break in a promotion that didn't generally do that, and then to throw this match out there and really not even get to see any of it, it was just like, what's the point, and why are we here?
Yeah. It's a miracle Memphis ever ran smoothly at all, because I know, I do commentary for this promotion over in Mississippi these days, and they have these meticulous formats laid out, and you have pre-show meetings, and they're in your ear throughout the show, and it's all timed out, to the minute. And back then, you hear these stories of, Lawler would show up 30 minutes before they're going on the air and start writing down, who all's here? All right, you wrestle him, and you wrestle him. And then I've more recently heard stories, I can't think of who it was that was telling this, but it was so bad, when Corey and Lawler was splitting that one show and it was Corey's week, Corey would have to leave the desk during the commercial and come back there and tell who's wrestling next after the commercial and just go, you wrestle you and you go over. And the referee's just telling them time cues in the ring, It's it's a wonder any of this shit came off at all, the way they would.
Yeah.
I don't think it was like that when Jerry Jarrett was booking and some of the other people were booking, but they said even in the heyday, they said Lawler was, writing stuff the morning of where, Jarrett and Dundee and the little bit of time Gilbert got to do it, they were writing it all through the week and had it all ready. Lawler just kind of what are we doing Monday night? All right, well then we'll do this, and this. This guy's here, that guy's here. And it just kind of fell together somehow. But this one didn't exactly fall together this week.
No, it really didn't. That was the end of the program, though. Time expires there on that tag team match. That really makes you want to come out and watch those teams in action on Monday night. But we're going to talk Saturday night quickly here. I don't have results. I do know they did two shows on Saturday night, one in Jonesboro, June the 22nd, featuring Lawler and the Fabs, Sheep Herders, Travis and Sexton. The other show, Russellville, Kentucky, and with Lawler and the Fabs in Jonesboro, you have to imagine Russellville was not a very good card. So we'll move ahead to the following day, June the 23rd, Jerry Lawler show. The main guest is one Leslie Floyd Cretchman III, and this is where you talked about it. We get the epic Bota the Witch Doctor video again. Jerry Lawler laughing through much of this interview, which goes 10 fucking minutes, by the way. Lawler essentially laughing at the character throughout, not in a gimmick way either, not in like a babyface mocking. It was just like, this is so fucking ridiculous. And Cretchman out there still insisting he's an attorney. Lawler saying, I thought you were a sports agent. And meanwhile, as you pointed out, we know that the Lawler show is recorded prior to the Saturday morning wrestling taping. That means that this was recorded before they had the issues on the TV program about the attorney versus sports agent deal. And Lawler's doing it here on his show.
I mean, you would think the minute the camera stopped rolling on the Jerry Lawler show, and Jerry Lawler like, hey, we got to sort this out before we go live with the Saturday morning show. Are you an attorney or are you a freaking sports agent? Because as far as I know, you're a sports agent. And if Cretchman said, well, no, they've decided I'm going to be an attorney because of this, and they want me to come in and be a part of the finish for the tag titles and all that, they should have sorted that out and all been on the same page. There's no excuse for them to have argued about it here on the Jerry Lawler show and then still be on opposite sides of it on the live show.
Right. So this was taped prior to the wrestling action we saw yesterday, but it's a 10-minute interview introducing Cretchman to the world, and I can't imagine what the ratings did there on the Lawler show. We also get a viewer mailbag segment here from Linda in Memphis. Has a question for Tom Branch, who appears up there in the little TV. She asks, why does Tom referee matches so one-sided, especially against Jerry Lawler? Tom says he's amazed people can write letters in Memphis. I'm amazed he finished the interview, Gene. He sounded like he had acid reflux or something going on here. But Branch claims he calls it the way he sees it, so we get the best of both worlds. Cretchman and Tom Branch cutting promos here on the Lawler show.
If we ever had any doubt that the viewer mail was worked on the Jerry Lawler show, this is it right here. Jesus Christ. Nobody wrote in asking a question. The fucking Tom Branch.
Well, we close out the Lawler program discussing the baseball strike, which we'll have 75 more of between here and the mid-1990s, which would propagate them to create Abe Knuckleball Schwartz. Ha ha, pal! So we'll move on to Monday night, June the 24th, Mid-South Coliseum, Memphis, Tennessee. Remember, 6 big matches on the card. Tag Team Mania before the main event. Going to see Terry Adonis and Bill Smithson defeat Tommy Montana, if that is in fact his real name, and Johnny Rich. Also, listen to this, Phil Hickerson and the Spoiler defeating Tojo and Jerry Jarrett. What the fuck?
I mean, I don't want to spoil the rest of the show, but it was heel night here in Memphis. I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know if Tom Branch reffed every match or what, but holy shit, they swept it here. But there it is, Terry Adonis and Bill Smithson. I guess that's why they got out there with a DQ on Saturday, because we're going over on Monday night against another team that was jobbing on Saturday morning. And man, Tojo and Jerry Jarrett losing to Phil Hickerson and the Spoiler. So I guess we're trying to get some heat on those two guys in case we need to call upon them to do a little more. And holy cow, Bailey Travis and Ron Sexton against Oski and Youngblood. Can you imagine?
No.
What that was like. Them trying to do some of this newfangled shit they're doing with either one of those guys had to be.
Didn't happen. Travis and Sexton do somehow manage to defeat Oski and Youngblood. Like I said, Youngblood can't win a match unless it's like a TV squash, and even then Jerry Bryant has his number. We also see the PYT over Les Freeman and Gino Della Sera. I'm sure they took that out on Della Sera and more so Freeman. Sheepherders over Stan Lane and Jackie Fargo. What was the point of bringing him? DQ was the finish, though, so I'm sure Jackie got in his licks. Boyd and Rip Morgan going over, and they are, in fact, the Southern Tag Team Champions, defeating Stan Lane and Jackie Fargo. That'll stretch things out for Steve Keirn's return. And then we go to the main event. The Witch Doctor champion, Bota, the Witch Doctor, defeats Jerry the King Lawler, Southern title on the line, which means we have ourselves a dual champion. the Witch Doctor champion, and now the Southern Heavyweight champion, Bota.
Yeah, for all you people that think Jerry Lawler was the original unified champion, no. Bota, he unified the Witch Doctor and Southern titles right here in 85. Dude, if I would have been a betting man in 85, I would have lost the house betting that Lawler would not drop the belt to this freaking Witch Doctor. Holy shit. The clean sweep. Heels go over in every match.
All 6 matches,
night.
yeah.
That's interesting.
So they book a show, really no fanfare to it. 6 matches on the card, and the heels go over in all 6 matches there in the college. It's a sad day in the Mid-South Coliseum as we move on. Let's see what happens in Louisville Gardens the following night, Tuesday night, June the 25th. Sheepherders over Freeman and Della Sera. The spoiler in singles action, Frank Morrell getting a win over Jay Youngblood. Are they not trying to force Jay out of the territory, make him quit?
Well, you're not going to help anybody get rid of their drug problem losing to the spoiler, Frank Morrell, in 1985, that's for sure.
There was apparently some guy here on the Louisville show booked by the name of Rick Steed, perhaps. He no-shows. I don't even know if he actually existed. Instead, he's replaced by Rip Morgan here. It's Jerioski over Rip Morgan on a disqualification. It's the Fabulous Ones defeating Travis and Sexton in a no DQ match. And in the main event of the night, 6-man action, Jerry Lawler teaming with Tojo and Jerry Jarrett defeating the PYT and referee Tom Branch.
Wonder who got pinned in that one, right?
Very good question. Could you imagine if they went up to Coco, Renesto said, "Yeah, you're jobbing tonight." "I don't think so, motherfucker."
We'll see about that.
That's right. So 6-man's Tom Branch working his way into the heel side here. Also Wednesday, June the 26th in Evansville, Indiana, Rip Morgan over Les Freeman. Jonathan Boyd defeating Johnny Rich. The spoiler over Gino Della Sera. What a card. Travis and Sexton defeating Oski and Youngblood. And again, 6-man, Tojo, Jarrett, and Lawler over the PYT and Tom Branch. So Monday night, 6 matches. And all the other arenas, 5 matches. I mean, I understand it's the territory era. The cards weren't stacked 8, 9 matches on the card every week. But 5 matches in the larger cities, I don't know what we're doing, man.
Yeah, especially at the Coliseum. That is beyond rare, seeing 5 matches at the Coliseum. I mean, we are just out of options here. We just don't have wrestlers. And those matches that they booked, and then to have all the heels going over, can you imagine those fans leaving the Coliseum? I mean, it was that old Dream Machine line, a lot of sad talking, slow walking, ball squall, climb the wall, old time Jubilee. I mean, I bet they were bummed out of their minds over that whole ordeal.
Well, we got a split show here on Thursday, June the 27th. Half the roster, or some people anyway, wind up in Russell Springs, Kentucky High School. One of the men involved in Russell Springs must have been Jerry Lawler, because he's not part of the Nashville Fairgrounds card, which looks like this. Oh, man. Rip Morgan over Gino Della Sera. Jonathan Boyd defeating Les Freeman. The spoiler over Johnny Rich. Phil Hickerson now defeating Jay Youngblood. Is there anybody he hasn't jobbed to? It's a 6-man tag team action. Going to call back the boys from earlier in the night. Got to love the spot shows, but they're doing it here in Nashville. It's the Sheepherders and the spoiler over Freeman, Johnny Rich, and Della Sera. Before we go to the main event, the Fabulous Ones over Travis and Sexton. I wrote crap card, and I was just trying to be polite.
I feel like they've got a checklist, and they're like, "Hey, is there anybody who hasn't beat Jay Youngblood yet? Raise your hand." Oh, okay. Hickerson, you just got here, right? Okay. All right. Well, you can beat him tonight. And then Morrell already beat him. Yeah. So it's you. And I think when you do it, I think everybody will have beaten him except
Bota.
Maybe. Yeah. We're trying to get David Haskins back up here. And who's our favorite that Savage dragged across the floor? You mentioned
David Johnson. David Johnson, yeah.
David Johnson needs to come in and beat Jay Youngblood too before he leaves. So.
Well, we saw Jerry Bryant do it. I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Branch gets it done at this point either. There's a lot of yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, rough night there in Nashville, the fairgrounds. Nick Goulas is rolling over in his grave, and he hadn't even passed away yet there in 1985.
Yeah.
As we close out, I don't have results. I do know Friday night, June the 28th, Dyersburg, Tennessee Community College Gym It's Jarrett, Tojo, Lawler, PYT, Sheep Herders, some sort of a 6-man tag going down as well. So bringing out most of the talent there in Dyersburg to end the week. And that's going to wrap it up this week for Regional Wrestling, Gene.
Well, do you still stand by that last week's card was the worst show we've seen?
Man, it's like I said, it wasn't any better. I don't know if it was any worse. There's a difference, though. I feel like last week's show was more, it was bad. It was train wreck. It was even worse booking, perhaps. But this week was more boring and bland, and it's still terrible booking. So I don't know what's better, just being boring or being awful, because at least the awful kept my brain trying to process. I couldn't go to sleep taking the notes because I was continuously going, what the fuck is going on here? And having to write it down. With this show, you could kind of see what was going on and you just didn't give a fuck.
Well, I mean, we know the booker must have just full autonomy at this time to do, because, I mean, I was thinking about this as I finished, watching the show, and I was just sitting there running back through my mind that I'm like, so Tom Renesto sat down and wrote out that whole Sheep Herders Fabulous One saga, complete with him coming out and taking the belts and the attorney coming out and him handing the belts back and looking like a dipshit. Him and Eddie Marley come charging out there like they're about to strap the belts around their waist, like they're going to be the new champions.
They might be.
And expected like a big pop, and the crowd's just like, yeah. But I mean, it's like, did he not have to tell that to Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler and them go, dude, that's fucking stupid. That flies in the face of all this other shit you've been doing. Like, we just did a whole tournament based off 2 guys who were stripped for cheating. And now in the very first title defense, 2 guys are going to win for cheating, who you're then going to strip, which would make sense since you've established that. But then you're going to get that reversed back, which undoes everything. How does no one question that? Or are we just to a point where even Jerry Jarrett's like, all right, we're just going to let him fall on his face until it's so bad we can just justify fire? I mean, I would have thought Jerry Jarrett, since, at times Jerry Jarrett's off in Hendersonville, he's doing Jerry Jarrett stuff, and Lawler's kind of the only one there, and maybe Jarrett's head's not in the game on the booking. But in 85, Jarrett's here wrestling. He's on these freaking shows.
Right.
He's hearing or hearing this lack of reaction. How do you not go like, hey, get out of the cockpit. I got to pull the nose up on this fucking thing real quick. And then maybe we can sit down and talk to you and see if you even have the capacity of coming up with any ideas of even being a maintenance booker. Because right now, we were in the ditch when you took over, and now we're halfway across the field over 2 miles from the road at this point. Like, we're not even in the vicinity of getting this thing back on track. But it's just rolling on. The train is off the track, and it is just not slowing down, and it's bizarre to me.
It's so weird because either they can, usually in Memphis, they can pull a couple of decent names and use them on top for 6 months or whatever the case may be. Guys will come through Memphis and work. And even when they didn't, they created teams like Rock and Roll Express worked. Rick Rude came in and got over. There was a lot of talent that they were able to. Kamala, there's a lot of different gimmicks and things like that they were able to roll with and make work. And it's just nothing is working. Nothing is clicking. There's a few decent talent. The Fabs are here clearly because they were given some sort of a guarantee that they liked.
Yeah.
And so that's why they're here. Make no mistake about it. It's not because they think Memphis is the happening place to be right now. Jerry Lawler's here because he owns half the damn territory. So there's a reason some of the top guys are here. The rest of these people, I mean, we got Jerry Jarrett, Tojo Yamamoto, Phil Hickerson, and Frank Morrell, who are either all retired or semi-retired or should be retired. And we got them all back here right now because we can't get anybody to work the damn territory. And then we're pulling guys who have never been anywhere or never been anywhere of any relevance. Bota, the witch doctor, for instance. We give him a gimmick. Let's see if it works. It's already being laughed at out of the gate. Les Freeman, I have no idea who that is without going and Googling his background. I'm not even going to try to pretend. Gino Delicera never really made it outside of, his area. There was a lot of Montreal guys who thrived in Puerto Rico as well. And he did okay there. But in Memphis in 1985, just really random and weird. There may be a spot for him here if they knew what they were going to do with him, besides just throw him on the show. So Jerry Allen's just kind of, he has the look, but he's just missing something. And
Yeah.
Jay Youngblood's clearly, obviously, he's a few months away from passing away. So there's just so much terrible shit here, and Renesto doesn't help things because you can at least have shit and have good booking. Everything can make sense. It can be logical. Maybe it doesn't get over because nobody's worth a shit, but at least the stories make sense, and those don't even make sense. We don't know anything that's going on here, and it's not good right now. That's where I'm at.
And the Bota character, you could say, well, okay, they're going back to the well, like you said, with Kamala, but Kamala was, Sugar Bear Harris, who had wrestled for almost 10 years. He knew how to work. They just found him a gimmick, and he's huge. He looks like a monster. He was able to go out there and convincingly play a Ugandan headhunter or whatever. Yeah. This guy's freaking 4 feet tall. He looks like he's barely bigger than a midget wrestler. And the backstory is absurd. He's got a manager that you can't take serious. So this thing's dead in the water before it even happens, and I can't believe Lawler let him pull the trigger of having him put the title on him. I guess maybe at this point, Lawler's like, what's it going to hurt, at this point, but...
Pygmy witch doctor, maybe that's what he is.
Yeah. I mean, because he's not anything you can take serious. I mean, when there's fans out there like, I'm a foot taller than that guy, and I could whoop his ass. I mean, he might burn me, apparently, but other than that...
Well, he walks on hot coals, so you're going to have to do that to get to him, I guess. I don't know. But that's where we're at. We haven't seen Bota step in the ring yet, but we will very soon. I'm looking forward to seeing Bota, the Witch Doctor, in studio before too long, hopefully next week. Since he is the Southern champion, I certainly hope he shows up. We're also going to see more of Mr. Cretchman next week, I know. He won't be here long, but he will be here next week, so we'll see how week number 2 works for Leslie Floyd, or whatever the hell his name is. Remember, he's the 3rd Leslie Floyd Cretchman, too. That's just insane. But
yeah, that had happened 2 other times before.
They never decided to pull the plug on that one. But and I didn't even know that was a name in Russia, for that matter. But I guess it is what it is.
A famous Russian name, Leslie Floyd Cretchman. I hope Bota shows up next week and insists that he's like a Jamaican bobsledder or some shit, and he's going completely against the character they've laid out for him because that's what his manager's doing.
Either that, yeah, I would go with that, or Jerry Lawler he's a great artist. He can kind of like come up with some sort of a picture of Floyd Cretchman, and then they can kind of put it on a shrunken head, and they can imply that Bota had taken down his sports agent / attorney / whatever the fuck else he was going to be, and we'll have to wait and see if he changes his job title again next week here on the program. But for this week, we're going to wrap it up. I only had about 7 pages of notes, and the last one really not much on it. And that's short for me in regards to these shows we do. We still managed to fill out the time thanks to Cretchman and Bota, so I do have to thank them for that. And I want to thank everybody out there for listening to the program. It's been a couple weeks. We've been away. I've been going on through some things, and we've been getting everything situated. I want to thank everybody who's reached out for that. You guys can continue to follow me through my social media. We're going to try to pump out these regional wrestlings as often as we can. It might be a few weeks before we're back to the norm, dropping every week, but I was happy to get this one in, Gene.
Yeah, me too. Because I've got some shit going on, so I don't know how much longer that I'm actually going to have like power and internet and shit going on here. If I don't figure out something with this job, I may be either homeless or at the very least sitting here in the dark with no internet. So yeah, we're trying to what is that they say? Make hay while the sun's shining, or whatever that old corny Southern saying is. So we're on here, and luckily we have a show that's silly and fun, to the point that we can get our mind off of the real world and talk about just such absurdity that you can't help but have fun. When me and you got on here, you said, well, this one won't be long. And I had full confidence that once we got talking about this stuff, I'm like, nah, we're fill the time. I will fill the time. Don't worry about that, because there's a lot to say. Even though there's not a lot happening, there's still a lot to say about it. So, like I always say, all these shows may not all be good, but they're all fun one way or the other. So thanks for having me on, and I look forward to maybe recording a few other things with you during this next week or two while you're cramming content to get in the chamber, so to speak. Get it
fun, absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, before we wrap it up, Gene, I know I like to try to promote some of the work you're doing out there. So if there's anything you want to touch on before we wrap things up here, have at it, man.
I mean, you can check out, I've got a Substack now, substack.com/Rasslin Retro Wrestling Archive, and that's where I post a lot of the other podcasts that I do. That's where I've been posting some articles. I've been using some of this time I got on my hands. I did a series of articles on Jackie Fargo, did one on Bobby Davis, did one on Norvell Austin, and the most recent one I did was one on Don Carson. So I'm trying to cover people that you're not reading or hearing about every day of the world. If you're a wrestling fan and you're wanting to learn about some of the older, more obscure people, I'm trying to cover some of that. And so I'm getting a lot of good feedback, so I'd love it if people would go check that out. Or I've never promoted it on here before, but I have a Patreon as well, patreon.com/Retro Wrestling Archive. I've got some watch along stuff on there. We've got our post show we call Hot Mics, which is basically each week after we get done recording the USWA podcast, me and the guys kind of riff for 30 minutes or an hour about different things. And since BT's come along, there's been some really, really strange conversations. I like BT, we're old friends, but he's a unique cat, and he's got some odd stories. And a lot more people have been commenting and listening to those shows and messaging me going, "Are those stories real?" I'm like, as far as I know, but you'd have to ask him. So a lot of content, and I could really, I got a Google Drive with a ton of Memphis stuff and a ton of other stuff on there. So, like I said, I don't usually plug it here, but I could really use the patrons right now. If you want to roll the dice and check it out, there's a $5 tier and there's like an $8 tier with that includes the Google Drive.
Yeah. And just like, the WrestleCopia Patreon, there's no subscription. You guys can cancel anytime. So it's worth giving it a try. See what's out there and check it out. Gene's Patreon. And of course, we always encourage you to try out the WrestleCopia Patreon as well. And, in the meantime, if you guys have tried one, try the other, or give them both a try. And if you guys enjoy both of them, you guys can gift memberships to your friends as well to join in and check out the videos and the podcasts and things that we put on there. That's going to do it this week. We're going to wrap up Regional Wrestling. Gene, I want to thank you again for helping me essentially close out June. We're pretty much wrapped up June of 1985. So we're pretty much at that halfway mark now in the year of 1985. Hopefully things go up from here.
Well, I'm not going to make the mistake of saying they can't get any worse, because
I'm not doing that again either.
I mean, I don't know what that would even be. I don't know what that would entail, but I'm not going to jinx it. Like I said, hit us with your best shot, Tom Renesto, because me and Ray's going to have fun regardless, and just really appreciate all the loyal listeners that check out all your shows, and the ones that, comment and tag us and stuff, and, let us know that they're following along and give their opinions and comment on the things that we say here. It makes this a lot more fun, and reminds us that we're not just saying all this into a void, that there's people that are listening and enjoying it.
That's right. Tom Renesto, bring on Bota. Next time Gene returns here for the Memphis 85, we're going to talk about the new Southern Champion, the Witch Doctor, and so much more. Until then, Gene, thanks for being here, man. Another episode of Regional Wrestling coming your guys' way soon. Thanks, Gene.
Thanks.